Alright, so it seems I will be staying awake until the morning is the idea. So I got another probably 4 hours because I need to go get my oil changed and stuff in the morning. Talk to a mechanic about my truck heater and stuff. I've been dealing with this truck heater. I've tried to fix it for the last 3 years. It's not working. So this thing that we got set up right now, we're just talking about attributes, skills, character build setup. We tested a couple things on the other character when we set things up. And I've kind of changed my opinion a couple times. We still have to do a couple of tests because I did not manage to find any animals to hunt on the single player just a minute ago. So the main issue is food. And the problem with this is because on a normal scum server, I probably wouldn't have any problems with food. It'd be fairly simple, fairly easy. But on my single player server, and if I build my server again for scum, for online play, it's not very common to find specific items. And the way they've changed a few things that I've noticed has made it kind of difficult for me. So leveling your engineering and your survival and your awareness and stuff all together has been kind of rough because you have to build a flag now before you can start working on that stuff. So I can't really level any of those very easily anymore. I'll have to get the uh, components to build everything basically from the ground up, and it's already going to be hard enough. Now the other thing is that food wise, when we're looking at our builds, if things were separated a little bit differently and we were starting this game, I would have easily just dropped my intelligence down to 1 or 1.5 and did like 50% awareness or something, or 50% uh, into like farming or something like that. But they don't have intelligence leveling in the game yet. If I was going to do that, then I would probably go 4.5 strength, 4.5 con still. And then I would probably or go straight into dexterity, and I would go probably medium stealth, and I can show you what that'll look like right here. So we go here, 3, medium stealth, probably medium thievery, or you go basic driving, basic motorcycling, basic thievery. But in my servers, since it's hard to find loot and all that, it's also going to be more difficult to level up demolition skill. But as long as they haven't changed the crafting and building things, after you get a flag down, we should be able to get demolition fairly okay. But I know basic thievery is a big one for like lock picking some lockers for me. Um, and I also know that medium thievery with max strength is a big one for us. And I do know that 5 strength does take a little while to get, and the more strength that you try to get, it takes longer and longer to achieve. At least that's how it used to be, and I'm figuring it's still going to be. Because 8 strength, I believe, was the top amount of strength that you could get in the past. So 5 strength just makes it the fastest way to get to 8 strength if you're going for 8 strength. And I think 8 strength is pretty important when it comes to crowbarring, which is going to be my main way to level up thievery without having to have a bunch of thievery skill and doing all that. Because the more strength you have, and the more thievery you have, it seems, the faster that you can crowbar into things from the last test that I did before I left the game. So for me, I think 5 strength is good, 4.5 strength works. But here we're doing 4 and 4. And on this, we're going to be lowering, as you can see here, we lowered brawling down 2, and we lowered melee weapons down 2. And essentially what this stat and build is here to do right now is to give us an advantage in combat early. Now, depending on if we are able to find food or figure out how to hunt with very low awareness, or at least farm awareness up enough early to where we can find food later, that's going to be the big thing that I would do. But when it comes down to skills that I just hate leveling in general, this is the build that I'm starting to look at. Lower dexterity makes us a little bit slower, which kind of sucks, but dexterity is one of the things that's a little bit easier to level passively on its own. The second thing with this is that with lower dexterity, you get a little bit extra body fat earlier. It's going to give you a little bit extra calories, as far as I can remember. Um, and then why we are going into stealth is because this is going to let us be a little bit more quiet than most of the other players that are going to be taking thievery for the most part. Now, if someone has advanced stealth, they're going to be a lot more quiet than us, but this is going to put us at 50,000 points or so, 50,000 experience in stealth to get to medium, which is going to be the main goal that I'm looking for here. Otherwise, you could potentially drop this to basic and then go for like basic thievery and save me a lot of pain and trouble. But for me personally, I just don't like leveling stealth for the most part, even though you can do it passively. And then if you're going into a rush game where it's going to be like survival of the fittest, I think that stealth can play a pretty major role in that because all the PvE type lockers that you can get, you're going to be able to lockpick them pretty easily on their own, as far as I can remember, and it should be fine. Like, you shouldn't have that big of an issue unlocking those. So you're going to get access to those weapons anyway. When it comes to the kill box, you basically just need to focus on the first two locks or whatever. But since we do have lower thievery, that's why we need to focus more into strength. And I don't have 4.5 strength, which I think is where you have to have uh, your strength to use the 100-pound bow. So once you get to like 4.5, you can actually pull back the 100-pound bow. But my thought process is that if we can get our archery up a little bit early, it's going to allow us to use the 100-pound bow anyway. 4 strength means that we're going to be a little bit stronger than somebody who has 3 strength. And then we're going to be a little bit weaker than someone that has advanced melee weapons, but not by a whole lot. And the second part of this is that if you start the game with advanced melee weapons, it takes you like another million points or so to get like an additional 1% increase if it's anything like running, because we actually had running where we got it glitched or something and it gave us bonus stats at the beginning of the game before. So like with our running skill before, we had advanced running and then it gave us another bonus like 1 million free points or something in there, and then we still ran and had to get like another couple of like a percentage or something, and we got like a 1% speed increase. So if that's how it works with melee weapons, then a 1% damage bonus or something, I'm not super worried about. And then this right here is probably like 180,000 points or so, I would assume. So leveling melee weapons from basically 0 to medium isn't very hard. And then pretty much any stat that you look at, 0 to medium, isn't very difficult. So you're looking at 100 and like 110,000 points or whatever for those. And this you're going to be looking at like 180,000. So the time that would take you go from 0 to medium, it's going to be a little bit longer than that to go from this there. I don't recall what my times were in the past, but I think it was like a couple of hours, like 2 hours, or it's either 2 or 4 hours or something to do that in the past. I don't remember. As for brawling, we got a little bit under medium. That means that we're going to be a lot better than someone that has no brawling skill at all, but we're not going to be as good as somebody who has like advanced brawling skill. But this right here is going to be probably the same amount of time or similar amount of time that you would go from 0 to basic to get from this to medium skill. This also is going to allow us to get a little bit of extra fame early because we don't have these fully maxed out. We're going to get that additional fame. It's going to help us get our fame up quicker at the beginning of the game, hopefully, and that way we can get access to the traders a little bit faster. Or at least that's my thought process when I'm looking at this. As for running, I'm assuming if we're running around the map, now when it comes to a official server or anything like that, the loot and the cars and the money, all that stuff is a lot easier to come by. But on my servers, or the things that I've made in the past, it's a lot more difficult. Equipment and stuff is a lot harder to come by. Basic crafting components are a lot harder to come by. And with the updates that they've did so far, I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to solve the food issue. So what I do, the reason why I started putting more points into my intelligence skill was to evenly separate my stuff into like awareness, survival, and farming so that I could instantly drop down on the ground, try to build like a basic compass or body armor or something, and then try to find animals to farm, or try to go into farming and farm that as well. However, I don't think farming is necessarily going to be viable unless you do it in mass production, from what I've seen. And also, I've changed some server stats on mine to where your crop yield is not 100%, it's like 25%. It might go to 50%. The other thing is that if you go advanced medical, it's really strong early, I would say, and it's very important just as a skill to save you in general. Especially really good with the mechs, but you still have tourniquets that you can use. You could still have someone else that has medical skill help you out. And if they haven't changed anything with the medical leveling, then I would probably just collect, alcohol bottles and use those for disinfectant over time, and just go and mass disinfect myself over and over again to get XP. Unless they've actually changed and nerfed that, it's still to my knowledge in the game. I have to double check at some point, but I'm just not as much into medical, I don't think, anymore. I think early, if you do die, this is going to be the problem that you're going to get hit with probably the most. The other thing is that engineering wise, if we're not going for the most advanced stuff early, which on my servers it's almost impossible to build them that quick anyway, because it would take you forever to get all the supplies to do it. All you're getting is that armor piercing ammunition here, which is probably going to be good versus some of the NPC bosses that come into the game. But on a server that has very low loot tables in general, you're probably not going to run into people with massive amounts of body armor all the time. You might run into improvised body armor more often than not. And the basic ammunition that you can get at medium tier is actually a lot better, I think, than just going all the way to advanced for that extra ammunition and things like that. Now, as far as I know, we can still level all this stuff up the same that it used to be. It might have changed, it might have not. I don't really know. I haven't got to test it. But the big deal with engineering that I saw so far is that you have to have a flag now. So I can't force level my engineering or survival and stuff early game because I don't have the ability to place a flag rapidly. You have to build toolboxes and stuff, and my maps have a lot less material, so it makes building a flag a lot more difficult. And also, I don't know if there's a limit to how many flags that you can build anymore. So if you die, I don't know if you get to place a secondary flag or whatever, but basically you're going to need to build a flag zone somewhere to set up a farming station to start farming these levels. And then hopefully there isn't a big base around it, or some player runs across you, or anything like that, or you just have food issues wherever you're, trying to level your stuff at. Now, cooking wise, I think this could potentially be a really interesting thing. I don't really know, but I haven't been able to figure out how to get enough food in the game server yet. So, uh, until I get the hunting figured out, I don't think this is going to be a big deal on my list, and I don't think cooking is going to help me hunt stuff. As far as I know, survival and awareness are supposed to be the main two that helps you with hunting things, but we haven't been able to find any animals at all, even when I had maximum awareness or if I had survival. So there's something to it that we have to figure out in general. Now, the secondary part of this is that I've come to think about it a little bit more, and I was looking at this build stat. I'm not going to be as fast. I need to wait for my dexterity to level up while I'm in game. So dexterity can level up passively, and also camouflage can level up passively. The big difference with this is that people say, like, oh, if your awareness skill is advanced, then you can see people with advanced camouflage, and it cancels it out. And that is potentially true if they fixed everything and it's working properly now. My counter to this right now is that most people probably aren't just going to take advanced awareness unless they require the food, which I might in this map, which is probably the big thing. So they might be taking, probably advanced medical, potentially engineering, maybe farming, because those are all things that are pretty simple that you can do to get good. And then all this stuff at the bottom of the biochem, education and psychology, programming electronics, animal handling, all those things are things that I would really like to do in the future if they ever come out with them, and I think it'd be really good, especially animal handling, especially like basic animal handling. I would be fine with that. But if those come in, I'm expecting them to have intelligence leveling at some point. So I could lower my plans at the beginning, or I could continue to use 3 intelligence with this build that we have set up right here. And then if they add animal handling or something to the game, I will simply lower my camouflage stat and then put like basic animal handling or basic biochem or basic tactics in here. Tactics is also potentially a really powerful thing because a lot of people don't really run um, max advanced awareness. They might go medium awareness. So let's drop this down and then we go to like farming or whatever. I can drop this down to like here and we get like basic medical, basic farming. So I can go and drop this down, and this will be about like 200,000 points or something that I'll need to max out camouflage. And we've already said that going from 0 to medium is pretty easy, and that's only like 110,000 points. And camouflage is a passive skill, so you're only looking at an additional 90,000 points or so here to level this up the rest of the way. So even going down to like medium like this, you could easily put that there and still put more points into something else that you could need. But you see, that doesn't really give you as much benefit as like dropping it all the way down to here and getting two basics. And that would probably be like 200,000 here, so probably like 800,000 or something XP that you need, which is a drastic decrease. So if I was doing this, I'd probably keep this way up here, and we would probably put something like basic medical or basic awareness. So like in this setup right now, I could go straight into basic awareness if I need additional help finding those animals and those tracks while I'm actually hunting. I think dropping some of this into awareness could be really good, or even dropping this down and getting this up to like medium could be good for like a balanced start. But my thought process on why I'm going camouflage now and no one else goes camouflage is because they say that if awareness is higher than camouflage, it cancels out camouflage. So you're only going to get the benefits of camouflage. One, there's probably a radius, so I'm assuming there's a radius. So if you're very far away, you're probably going to get the benefit of the camouflage, I would think, more than not at farther distances. Plus, you're probably going to be in bushes or stuff anyway. But the secondary effect on here is that if awareness does cancel out camouflage, then the benefit of camouflage is only really there at the beginning of the game. And then it would be there at the end of the game potentially once awareness and camouflage are completely leveled out. So if you're going to start a character at the very beginning of the game and you want to use camouflage at some point, it's probably better to start with advanced camouflage over pretty much any other skill in general if awareness does cancel it out, because it's way easier to level camouflage than it is to level awareness. I have to actively level my awareness. I have to actively move across the map, find things, chop down trees, do things. You can't consistently level awareness at the same rate that you can level camouflage. Like they're very similar, but unless you cut down a bunch of tree branches or something in a line and you're consistently moving your character back and forth constantly across those branches to get that 5 XP per item or whatever, I highly doubt that you're going to keep up with camouflage in the long run of things. So if you start with medium awareness and you're playing the game, and I start with advanced camouflage and I'm playing the game, you're going to have a bit like a better hunting experience and probably hearing experience when it comes to playing the game. And I'm going to have a lot harder time when it comes to combat early if I get seen first. But if I'm setting up an ambush or I am AFK or if I'm just say um, you know running around and I'd happen to like be stalking a deer or something, I'm going to get the benefit of the camouflage and it's going to go up. And I play the game. We both play the same amount of time. So let's say we both get the same stat points and awareness and stuff throughout the day. We play for 8 hours. And then when we both log off, we start leveling up our camouflage. Well, your camouflage is void because my awareness is probably going to be just as good as your camouflage, probably at that point. Maybe. But even if you do tap my camouflage out, or you tap my awareness out and your camouflage gets better than mine, my camouflage is going to be better than yours, or better than your awareness. So we're still in the same boat. You're going to be a little bit better close range, and I'm going to be a little bit better long range. But there's still benefits to these things. But the overall thing is just that if I have advanced camouflage, I'm going to be able to get to advanced plus faster. Conversely, if I had advanced awareness, which would be the second thing I would do here, if I'm going to put points into awareness, I'm going to go into advanced awareness to get the maximum benefit early of seeing everything, and then try to rush to advanced plus awareness as quickly as I can, because that's going to give me a massive benefit over everyone else for the most part. But even if we dropped, you know, this camouflage down, I think this is probably the easiest skill to level in the game. You know, you're not going to be passively leveling awareness. You're going to be leveling your camouflage basically the same rate I am for the most part, but by the time you get to 1,000,000 points and I get to 1,000,000 points, I'm going to have basically 2,000,000 points, and you're going to have, just 1,000,000 points. And then by the time you get 2,000,000 points, I'll have 3,000,000 points. So, like, I'll always be that little bit up ahead, but it also means that I get to rely on this in combat a little bit more than you would to set up advantages, right? And your awareness, you get to rely on that a little bit more for hunting and gathering and combat and stuff than I would. But there's trade-offs to both of them, so I don't really know. The other thing, stealth, this levels up passively, so technically I don't even need the stealth. I could go driving and motorcycling, which is what I normally do. My issue is that I really hate leveling stealth. So if I get a four-wheeler, I could level up driving. It isn't going to be the biggest thing. If I get a motorcycle, I can level up motorcycling. I have the potential of losing the vehicle, yes, and it will be kind of annoying. But whether you have a vehicle or not, because you can't guarantee when you get on a server that you're going to get a vehicle. It's very possible that like somebody has all the vehicles, or they're going to come and steal all the vehicles. Unless you have the manpower to keep it, it probably isn't going to be that big of a deal. And then once you have the manpower, it doesn't matter as much as you stall. But stealth is going to be a big one because it's just going to reduce your overall footprint. Not only for like players in the map and zombies and stuff on the map at the moment, which is going to be pretty big, but it probably helps you just kind of stay a little bit safer in general, as well as help you with your camouflage. And then I also think once they add more like NPC creatures and stuff to the map that hunt, or maybe like wolves or bears are more aggressive, potentially maybe the stealth helps you a little bit more. Going around town could be really good for that instance. But I just want to go into the game at this point, and I'll show you kind of where these baseline stats are, and I want to just look over them and see what I think too. And then I'm going to try and find some place to try and start a hunt and see if I can actually find something to kill. Because my number one issue right now on my server settings in particular is that I just can't find food fast enough. We went to the normal areas that we used to go to get food this last time, and most of the time I was killing wolves or bears 99% of the time, and nothing was there on that last guy that we played. And then the only kind of food that I could find anywhere on the map were seeds. So that makes me think, well, I should probably plant the seeds and then I would have something to eat. But the problem with that is the only way I'm going to get enough food planting those seeds is to actually plant in bulk, which is not possible at the very beginning of the game. And then I can't build any of those things unless I have a flag, and I can't build a flag unless I get components, and I can't get components and stuff unless I can survive, which I need food. So it's just this vicious cycle. But I'm thinking 4413. It's a little bit less than my 4.5, 4.5, 1.5, 1.5 build, but I'm actually liking this a pretty decent bit just looking at it. I think it's pretty decent. And the camouflage could potentially be really useful at the very beginning of the game, especially for melee. Because I might be able to just have someone walk up on top of me and I could melee them, or maybe I have like an improvised shotgun and I'm just kind of chilling in a bush and they walk up on me and I get one shot on them before I swap to my gun. Could potentially be good. My main thing is just like if you're in combat and you're able to run away and then just kind of set and they try to chase you and your camouflage activates, you might be able to like turn it on them really quick. So I think the idea of it's pretty good. But 4413. We're probably gonna be fairly slow. I'm thinking like maybe 26. I would assume 26, 27, but we have very low amounts on the speed. Now we could manipulate this a little bit because I don't remember the exact stats for running. Because there's a certain threshold that you cross that you get that extra percentage. So you could either start with that extra percentage early into the game, or you could just move until your character gets to that percentage later into the game as well. The other thing is that medical, I think, just could be very, very good. when it comes to these mechs. I don't know anything about these mechs for the most part now that they've been updated. But we need to check out this city over here because I haven't got to see it yet. So that's probably where we're going to head. And then I know that the gas station over here has a good amount of animals that spawn. So we're going to try and head that direction. We don't have any compass, so there is that. They do say that we need to have a compass for hunting, which is probably true if I was going to say. But I also think, depending on what time you hunt, because right now the sun is rising, okay? So it's rising to the east. I don't know if that's exactly east or not, but it means that you get kind of a location. Because you know that's east and that's north and that's south, right? So you don't exactly need a compass, but if you're hunting midday, it could be kind of rough, you know? I'll probably stop this video right here, and then we'll restart this so that I can do the hunt, okay?